Electrocast.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
Now this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you. I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or whatever movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up? Welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host Iris, and I'm here with my older brother,
Wesley.
Today, we're talking a movie from 2024, the long-awaited, how many years in the making?
I don't know about years in the making, but there was a script for a Gladiator II, almost immediately after Gladiator, which won the award for Best Picture in 2000.
Was this the, Underworld version or something?
Yeah, kind of. Nick Cave of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds was tasked by both Russell Crowe and Ridley Scott to write that, where obviously Maximus died and we had to bring him back from the dead. Nick Cave had Maximus fighting in the underworld against gods and demons and moving through time, fighting through every war, World War II and Vietnam, and then ending up in the modern day. So all the stuff we see in this movie with Paul Mescal and the River Styx and all that stuff, where I guess he kind of died, was all intended for that, all left over. That's Ridley Scott's contribution to Nick Cave's Gladiator II script. They didn't do that movie, but yeah.
Instead, they were like, let's just take all that crazy and put it in the arena.
In the arena, which I guess is where it belongs.
Yeah, I guess, but do rhinoceroses and sharks belong in the Coliseum?
Belong is a subjective term. I don't know. More people hit upon the historical accuracy of such a thing. You know how if you're a specialist in certain things, if you're an expert and people come to you, like Ali G comes and asks Buzz Aldrin, so is the moon really made of cheese? And then Buzz Aldrin has to field that question and pretend to be serious about it. That's what they asked the experts on Rome and the Colosseum. Did they ride rhinoceri? Were there sharks?
Is the Colosseum watertight?
No. So as they do, the internet spoils these kinds of things. So it's like Gladiator is all about blood and sharks and Paul Mescal's thighs. And I was like, what? So I knew it was coming, unfortunately. And so I looked for the water tightness of the Colosseum. Not at all. Every one of those gates had huge holes in it. Everything behind the scenes, as you see Paul Mescal running up the stairs, as we saw Gladiator in the first, Russell Crowe in the first Gladiator, all that stuff slopes down. There's no way you can feel anyway.
Technically speaking, a lot of these sports arenas double as hockey rinks, right? And there's got to be at least a couple feet to make that ice really stable and sturdy. So conceivably, a lot of our modern day arenas could be like Shark Tank Adventures.
I don't think they're designed that way, but they are designed for versatility, I think is what you're saying.
How much have you thought about Gladiator II since seeing it?
Well, knowing that I was going to be tasked to discuss it critically, I tried to keep it in my thoughts. But I wonder how many people thought about Gladiator and rewatched Gladiator, or have Gladiator so forward in their minds that a Gladiator 2 would just kind of line up. I really think that Gladiator 2 leans on the original film, maybe as a crutch, but it couldn't exist on its own. There were too many throwbacks.
They also spoon-fed it to us. I mean, they literally put footage from Gladiator, the original Gladiator, in Gladiator 2. It's like, in case you don't remember.
Exactly, which I think was necessary. We watched it 1, 2, 3, 4 days before seeing Gladiator 2. We watched the original, and Kelly Ray missed Connie Nielsen as the mom. Was like, I didn't realize that was her. And that's kind of important. But it was also kind of sloppily delivered in true Christopher Nolan fashion, is not laying everything out for you, spoon-feeding certain elements for sure, in terms of visual throwbacks and references. But he introduced stuff that was confusing, and you're supposed to know about entropy and inception or whatever and all this stuff. And you're like, hang on, let me get my bearings.
Wait, what? Christopher Nolan directed Gladiator II?
Yeah, didn't he?
No, Ridley Scott directed
Gladiator 2. It must be because the sound mix was so horrific, the dialogue so unintelligible.
Where did you see it?
We saw it. We didn't even see it in IMAX. We saw it in a nice, like a luxury theater VIP. I couldn't understand anything anyone was saying. Everybody had dumb names. And I just assumed it was Christopher Nolan. My bad.
I did happen to see this at a world-class theater. It was really the fact that they were showing it at the TCL Chinese in Hollywood that I spent my Saturday going to see this screening, because what an incredible theater. Denzel Washington was there for the Q&A too, and he was like, I haven't been to this theater in 40 years, and I'm glad to be back. Ooh, did I tell you about my Denzel Washington run-in?
No.
Well, I like to say that I went to the bathroom with Denzel Washington, but that isn't quite true. I was standing in line for the ADA restroom at the theater, and then suddenly these security guards swooped in and were like, we need this restroom. And I was like, whoa, I really have to pee. Like, I've been holding it for the last 2 hours. And then another security guard ushered Denzel Washington to the door, and the woman in front of me had a full-on meltdown. Started shaking, started crying, pulled out her phone, barely could hold it. And I was like, do you want me to take a picture for you? And she was like, yes. And then Denzel Washington was like, hold on, sister. What's your name? Where are you from? And he like had this wonderful calming demeanor, and this girl's freaking out, and I'm taking pictures of them. And he introduced himself to me, and he was the sweetest, most down-to-earth guy ever. And then he used our bathroom.
In front of you?
Yep.
I'm glad it worked out okay. But man, were you honored to pee where Denzel had presumably peed moments before?
I definitely thought about that when I went into the bathroom, and I was like, dang, this place is dank. Like, there is an aroma up in here. And I don't think that was all Denzel, but he, contributed to the bouquet that was in that bathroom.
Yeah, a weird thing happens with celebrities. We've been in LA and Hollywood all our lives, kind of doing the thing and being around. So we've seen celebrities, worked with celebrities. I went to the Wolf of Wall Street screening, and then we moved down right in the very front row when Leonardo DiCaprio showed up. And he gave his talk or whatever and left. And the compulsion to grab that dude's half-drunk water bottle was bizarre. Why would I want to do that? I didn't. But it was very strange.
That's like the equivalent of like the band set list or the stray pick or drumstick that would just be like the ultimate prize.
But that's a tangible, like a souvenir or whatever. Pooping where Denzel pooped or drinking out of Leonardo DiCaprio's water bottle,
that's just weird.
It's weird. At least enjoying that poop because the warmth of the seat might have been Denzel residual.
But Denzel, I think he in some way really oddly deserves that kind of reaction. I mean, he's a megawatt superstar. This girl, after Denzel left, she felt the urge to share. Like, I watched my first Denzel movie with my grandmother, and she passed away last month, and she would be so happy to know that I had this encounter. I mean, he's the kind of celebrity where you remember these milestone moments with your family, in your life. And I'd like to say that he brought that to the screen in Gladiator II. Was it incongruent, maybe, with the other characters and the environment? Maybe. But Denzel, you can't say didn't have a presence in Gladiator II.
I agree. I think he really enjoyed his villainous turn. As megawatt stars go, Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, Harrison Ford, I might even argue. Denzel, undoubtedly an A-lister, doesn't have to do accents at all. As a matter of fact, when people do accents, the voice that Tom Hanks does in Cloud Atlas, or Harrison Ford does in 1019 The Widowmaker, people kind of make fun of them. It's so weird and so off when Tom Cruise does an Irish accent far and away. When Denzel would have had to have affected an African accent. And I just don't think that would have worked, and Denzel doesn't think that would have worked. We all know Ridley Scott doesn't give a crap about accents. He's like, just do your thing. We're not going for historical accuracy here. And so he can just bring his New York. His last Ridley Scott movie, American Gangster. He can bring his American Gangster accent to Macromium.
Macronus.
Yeah.
I was definitely thinking about why Denzel's lack of accent was somehow less distracting than, for example, Joaquin Phoenix's lack of accent. I just feel like the accents would have helped in the Napoleon story. It was so confusing that the British had. Oh, not in the original Gladiator.
Also a questionable accent, but definitely not an accent.
But at least in that one, it was like, why do the British have French accents and the French have British accents? Like, I'm so confused. But Denzel was Denzel. Ridley Scott obviously doesn't care. I mean, there really is no justification for the other. I mean, Paul Mescal is Irish, for goodness sake.
Yep.
He's not even attempting what do they call it? The royal pronunciation, or the RP? Like the British accent that we typically associate with the Roman Empire, which has nothing to do with the Roman Empire. It just maybe British Empire, Roman Empire. There's some kind of weird parallel in our minds.
But he speaks Italian in this movie. Or maybe that was Latin.
There's all in the romantic language family. So Denzel brings the swag, but I'm going to argue that his final showdown with Paul Mescal does not feel like the big boss battle of Gladiator II. I was more interested with the other battle that the majority of the screenplay was building up to, which was between Paul Mescal and Pedro Pascal, which was a kind of a really delightfully, very complicated situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was a brutal battle based on this idea of revenge, whereas as Arcadia knew who Paul Mescal was.
Wait, I'm so confused. Who are you talking about?
What's his name? What was Anastasius? What was Paul Mescal's name?
Hanu?
No, or not. Yeah, that's
Lucius?
Well, number
Lucius.
one, Paul Mescal went by 3 names in this movie. But what was Joel's name? What was Pedro Pascal's name? Arcadia.
Oh, Acacius.
Oh, whatever.
Acacius.
And so there was a delicate balance, but also it was a good battle because there was a mix of hesitance, but also this kind of training kicked in where Acacius, God, that's dumb, was lightning fast. And some of his responses and strikes were so trained. He was a general of Rome. And then Paul Mescal was just rage like milk from a whore's tit or whatever. And you were like, man, this is a great battle, because the Denzel Washington Paul Mescal fight was like Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. Like, Denzel Washington is 70 years old, dude. There's just no way he's winning that fight. As brutal as he is, as ruthless as we saw him be, there's just no way.
Yeah, even like Macronus's predecessor. Unlike Proximo in Gladiator 1, Denzel's Macronus is not even a former gladiator.
Well, you never know. You'd never know.
He's kind of like a dandy.
Yeah.
He's not a warrior, right? And so, unfortunately, there's not a lot of uncertainty in the Paul Mescal Denzel Washington battle because, one, Denzel Washington is not a formidable foe. He's not a big boss. And two, by the sheer fact of like the runtime and where we were structure-wise in the movie, like I knew that the last war that they were building up to couldn't happen. There just wasn't the real estate to have a big final battle.
Yeah.
But the Mescal-Pascal battle was so cool because it was like, we didn't know if Paul Mescal would follow through. We could tell that he was having conflicting feelings about Acacius, and Acacius obviously had conflicting feelings, and either way, Lucilla would lose, and either way, the emperors would win. And it was just so well set up, and there was such great lead up to that fight that I felt like after that, the wind was really taken out of the sails of the movie.
I think the satisfaction with that fight comes more from the conflicting motivations, whereas prior to that, everything was a little bit more confusing to me. That was the first moment in the movie where I was like, I understand exactly what's happening between both characters and what their motivations are, and it's still a very straightforward skill-based contest, right? I was like, this is going to be exciting because you don't know exactly who you want to win. You've softened to Arcadium by then. Yeah, and then I guess you're kind of on Lucius's side.
I definitely wanted them both to win. Damn, what a matchup. What casting. Two of like the hottest actors ever battling in skirts.
I don't know who this Paul Mescal kid is. I don't know why you care, why we care, but that dude has a Roman nose.
And they really take advantage of that profile. I felt like Ridley Scott favored it. He's got a Roman nose. If you've seen Normal People, then you know exactly what's underneath that skirt.
Ew.
All of the like Roman dirt and stuff from the arena really like worked to his advantage. They definitely used it to shade in his abs, his pecs, and his quads.
Hey, give the guy his due. He worked hard. They said, how much chicken? And he said, all the chicken there is. All the chicken. What I want to ask is what Brian thought of this opening sequence. Brian having a big thing about openings. Were you not utterly confused by the battle in that African city, the last African city or whatever?
We were intended to be confused. Why did the filmmakers attempt to make the Lucius reveal a reveal? We all knew that he was Lucius. I mean, they don't hide it in the synopsis or the marketing materials.
He's on IMDb listed as Lucius. We watched Gladiator to that end because I knew that character was coming, and I wanted to refamiliarize Kelly Ray with the idea that he would be Lucius and that Connie Nielsen is his mom.
So they wanted to disorient us. They wanted to show us, look, we're in a completely different world. This is unlike anything that you saw in Gladiator. I guess knowing that we would eventually return to that environment. So I think it was a little bit by design. Was I so confused that I was like frustrated? I don't know. Brian's problem, I think, had more to do with his just unfettered love for the original Gladiator.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your
windshield wipers? eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Whatever you love, find it on eBay. eBay. Things people love.
Like Gladiator 2 was not set up for success. There was very little chance that it could succeed because of how much he loves Gladiator 1.
Oh, for Brian. Because I was going to say, as part of the Glickid conglomeration that is this weekend, Gladiator 2 is doing really well despite all. I was like, Gladiator 2, is this direct to video? I was very concerned, and I'm not even a huge Gladiator devotee.
But you think about the Roman Empire almost every day.
Yeah, but in other ways, in how it benefited me, not because it's awesome and there's swords and sandals and blood and stuff. I'm saying I was confused. The city was right on the water, and right over the battlements or the buttresses or the wall or whatever it was the sea. So we got scenes of the sea and them fighting next to the sea. And I honestly, legitimately couldn't tell sometimes where the trebuchets were going off, where the catapults were going off, whether they were on the boat, whether they were on the wall, in the city, or on the water. Was that intended to be confusing?
I don't think it was a story that we were intended to track. Like in Napoleon, the first battle is intended to be a character-defining moment. We see that Paul Mescal is a leader of his people, and he's like a frontline fighter, and that his wife was a warrior as well, and that he loses her. I don't know that we were supposed to get much more than that.
You mean his wife, who, when she died, spoiler, he was like, Perdona! And I was like, what's her name? What's your name? They all had the dumbest names in this movie.
Did you notice that they all die by arrow as well?
Yeah, Kelly noticed that too. The breaking off of the arrow from his wife. And then he was like playing with an arrow or that arrow. He didn't take a souvenir arrow from his mom, did he?
There was like souvenir debris in the arena, I think. I just thought, they could get a little bit more creative with the deaths.
I was so convinced that was set up for the Gladiator stunt show at Universal, where they're like, kill her. It wasn't personal, dude. She was an archer with dead ass aim who was going to take out Pedro Pascal. Any good general would be like, get the sniper. And then so she got shot with an arrow and does that very stage setup fall where she falls and we don't see her hit the ground because she lands on an air mattress backstage. And then Paul Mescal did his tumble into the sea. And that's going to be perfect to replace the Waterworld stunt show at Universal.
Which is just astounding to me that they still put that on. Waterworld, which wasn't arguably a success to begin with, and it was like 40 years ago.
Yeah, because it's got the elements. They're like, man, this fits our stage perfectly.
I'd go to the Gladiator II stunt show. Welcome to ancient Rome.
This is exactly what I'm saying.
So what confused me about Gladiator II was actually something about Gladiator I. Was it obvious, known, common knowledge that Maximus was Lucius's dad?
Nope. I had the same problem. This was a retcon, I'm convinced, because Kelly Ray spoke up and was like, right, but I also have a son, he said, around your age, when Lucius said he was 7. So was Maximus playing around? I think that was a sloppy retcon, because Maximus was already with his wife and son, cared about Lucius, but as a proxy for his son. And, Lucius is safe was his closing line in Gladiator, but because he couldn't save his son, he was interested in saving Lucius, who was the baby of his former fling. When that was, I'm not sure. It seems convenient. Do we care about Connie Nielsen, whose name I don't even know, in 2 movies now that I've seen her in? She's the mom. It's fine that Lucius is her son because he knew Maximus, saw the tyranny of his uncle or whatever, wants to enact the legacy of his grandfather. Making him Maximus's son seemed a little bit unnecessary, but kind of not for Gladiator II by Ridley Scott. Is it that far afield, given that there were sharks and rhinoceroses and monkeys with unnecessarily elongated jaws?
Those were fierce-looking monkeys, scarier than anything from Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, it fit, but in a cheesy retcon. This was like, Gladiator 2 was like Gladiator, the VR experience. You can't be Maximus because Maximus is dead, but you'll be Lucius. And you can fight as a gladiator, and you take the sand of the Colosseum in your hand, and you fight monkeys, and there are sharks and rhinos in this VR environment.
To make Lucius Maximus' son, unfortunately kind of sullies Maximus a little bit, especially for the hardcore Gladiator 1 fans. Because, 1, there's all the discrepancy with the wife and the lover and all that. But 2, I took Maximus's care for Lucius to be so honorable because he really saw him as the hope of Rome, so that he could fulfill the Aurelii dream, Marcus Aurelius's dream.
And didn't he? Does he sully Russell Crowe's Maximus, or was he just as thick-thighed and buff? And because Russell Crowe was no Henry Cavill as Maximus. He was fierce and determined, and Lucius had a softer side, but he was still bitter and screaming at his mom and stuff. That bald dude punched him in the face like 6 times with those iron spiked gloves. Not a mark. Hanno was appropriately tough.
He was super tough. Can we also talk about our twin emperors?
Yeah. So, did you get the introduction? Thank you for coming to the theater for Gladiator 2?
No, we didn't.
Yeah. So, obviously, because you saw a special screening, but we saw the commercial print where Denzel Washington, Paul Mescal, I think it might have been Pedro Pascal, and Eddie Munson were on screen. And I was like, Eddie Munson's in this movie? That's cool.
Joseph Quinn.
And then watched the movie, and that wasn't until like halfway through I was like, wait, that's Eddie Munson.
That's the sweet sap from A Quiet Place 3.
A Quiet Place Day 1.
Yeah.
Our review, not to be confused with A Quiet Place 2, also reviewed, available now.
Or whatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcast. I was like, I know those puppy dog eyes. Where do I know those puppy dog eyes from? And then finally put it together. I think it took me longer than with you, but I knew that there was something about that particular emperor. The other emperor, not so much.
Man, I forget his name, but I watched an interview with him, and that guy seems grounded. He seems down to earth. He's very gentle, effusive in his praise of the filmmakers, lucky and grateful to be on set, which is a testament, which adds to his totally gacked out performance as the other Caesar or whatever. He was manic and crazy, and so much so that I thought that's obviously what that dude's got to be like. He's like a must hire for Ridley Scott's Crazy Sisters Wild Boy or whatever, and she was like, put him in the movie, and he's like, okay, geez, calm down.
They were like the twin raptors of emperors.
Man.
Like you never knew what one was going to do. They're nipping at each other. They're all wild-eyed and crazy and unpredictable.
Yep.
I guess they get their comeuppance or whatever, but yeah, kind of crazy. A little bit over the top. A little bit like they were in their own movie, much like Denzel Washington, where they kind of made it their own, for better or for worse.
I mean, they were in their own world, for sure, as the twin emperors or Caesars.
I guess that's true. They probably more than any other character can justify that because they're so isolated or they're so insulated. But weird performances, but dramatic and Hollywoody. I mean, that's all Gladiator II wants to be.
Absolutely. It's what the people of Rome want. Those emperors definitely brought a new groove, not really conducive to the Rome that was envisioned by Maximus.
Wow, it makes our previous week's episode of The Emperor's New Groove make so much more sense.
Yeah, kind of crazy and wild. The question was, how did those people, this posed by Kelly Ray, how did those emperors, how did those Caesars rise to power, rise to prominence? How did they get there?
I left that to the historians and just assumed it to be so. It's less than 20 years later, and those kids can't be more than 25.
Because this is all about spectacle. It's all what the people want. A lot of craziness happening in this movie.
Well, I'm trying to get a beat on how you feel because there are plenty of things I'm hung up on, but there are plenty of things that, for the most part, succeed. I think Paul Mescal succeeds. I think that there's a lot of weight on his shoulders, and this is the arrival of Paul Mescal as a full-fledged movie star.
Yeah, he has big shoes to fill. Remember when the rhino was charging at him? So Hanno, he furthered Maximus's little dirt grabby thing, but he threw it up into a perfect screen of deception. Remember that?
Yeah.
And still got Johnny Knoxvilled. What was the point of the screen?
Because he was using the rhino to battle ram the Colosseum itself, break down the Colosseum itself.
Oh, God, he got smoked.
Literally.
Yeah.
He got Johnny Knoxvilled. It just comes down to, yes, it was chaotic. Yes, there were things about it that didn't make sense. Yes, tonally, it was all over the place. But it comes down to one thing. Did you or did you not get chills when Hanno, Lucius, Paul Mescal puts on Maximus's armor?
Well, that thing is made of adamantium. That's the most indestructible armor. Denzel Washington stabbed him 15 times. Didn't make a dent. So, if anything, I knew he was more safe because he had on mystical magical armor.
But did it work for you?
I don't know about chills. The movie worked for me overall. There wasn't just one throwback. There wasn't just one iconic, he's picking up the thing. There were dozens of matches and shots of Russell Crowe's face. It's fine. What's the direct Top Gun Maverick connection for Gladiator II? Which is the mark of quality in a movie.
I'm looking at the cast, hoping that something will jog my memory.
I don't know. It's not there.
Is it thematic? What is it?
Doesn't he literally say, "Talk to me, goose," at the end?
It's Maximus, but yes. Talk to me, Dad.
Speak to me, Father. which is the Roman "talk to me, goose." There was an awful lot of quinky dinks in this movie, maybe some clunky dinks. I mean, the idea that he would be brought back at exactly that time, that her son would randomly be captured and put in the arena as a gladiator so that she would recognize him. And not only that, but it came at the exact time and the thing, and he can rise and realize the dream that his father died for and that his grandfather would have wished. And he's got thighs and stuff, and you're like, Paul Mescal and Pedro Pascal, so yummy, or whatever. It was weird. It was fine. Gladiator 2 was fine. Leans heavily on Gladiator, wouldn't have existed without it. But as much as I wanted to pick it apart, this felt like a direct-to-video sequel that's elevated by such quality filmmaking and acting kind of across the board. This was a highly polished, cheesy sequel. It still irks me that it's awkwardly titled Gladiator 2.
And your final rating?
It was all right. It was all right. It's fine. It's fine.
This is a season-appropriate Hollywood movie that delivers on the movie-going experience, which you're such an advocate of.
And so your final rating is?
And my final rating is a resounding good. I really enjoyed Gladiator 2. And I'm not beholden to Gladiator 1 in the way that people are, that Brian is. And so I think I was kind of free to really just go in and enjoy it and appreciate it for what it was with all its flaws. And that is our discussion on Gladiator 2, available in theaters. We hope that you're listening to this with your loved ones today, Thanksgiving Day 2024, and that you check out our 400 plus other reviews at orwhatevermovies.com. or wherever you get podcasts. 818-835-0473 or orwhatevermovies@gmail.com. Happy Turkey Day, and we'll see you next time.
Dreaming of the perfect event or longing for a clutter-free space? I'm Stephanie with I'm with Steph, where your vision becomes a reality. From magical weddings to transformative home organizing, we bring you expertise and passion to every project. Whether you're planning a grand celebration or seeking peace through organization, we tailor our services to meet your unique needs. I'm with Steph. To explore our services and connect with me directly, visit I'mWithSteph.com. Mention Electricast for a 20% discount.
Hi, I'm Mark. And I'm Peter. We're the founders of Electricast Media, bringing you great podcasts like Nightmare Road Stories, Tech Talk Revolution, and Bodacious Minds.
Electricast networks include Ruby for female empowerment, the Best Business Network, and GPN for geopolitics. We built this company to create community and amplify diverse voices, and we really appreciate your support.
So, keep listening to Electricast podcasts and hear the culture.
Electricast. Electricast.